Today I'm here to present my case on JS. So some background information on JS. He is a 10-year-old fourth grader, Hispanic, male. His primary language spoken at home and in class is English. And he lives with his parents and his younger brother. And he was tested a year ago for a possible comprehension delay due to some struggles at school. However, whenever they did the tests, it came back that he was fine. He did recently have a hearing check just to see if there's a possible processing delay, and they haven't decided anything yet. His mother did describe that he's best with one-on-one learning. It does kind of get distracted in the classroom sometimes, but other than that, he's really good. And currently he's attending the Sylvan Learning Center for tutoring. And I guess he's reported to do really well there and seems to grasp concepts better when he's one-on-one. And I did use him for all of my probes. And so initially, when I gave him his curriculum-based measurement written expression probe, it was to determine his writing capabilities. I gave him 3 story starters that were retrieved from Intervention Central. And they were all given to him on a single day on October 21st. And it measured total words written, correctly spelled words, and correct writing sequence. And then I just compared his results to the writing norms that are provided on the website. And I'm comparing it, of course, to his 4th grade norms. And then on average, when I calculated his average, all of his measurements, so all 3 measurements, were more in the 16th percentile compared to same grade peers. And his lowest score was on the correct writing sequence. But when I looked at his all 3 probes, they were all mostly due to misspelled words. So I decided to do an intervention on spelling, and I thought that that would help increase his correct writing sequence. So for my intervention, I used the cover, copy, compare worksheets that are also on Intervention Central. And I did it over a span of 2 days. And I did this just because of scheduling issues. Otherwise, I would normally do this, within a week and then track his improvement. So I gave 4 probes on each day. And again, as I said, usually you do this over a week period. And just some quick observations that I noticed. He was very eager and motivated and excited to perform on the probes, even though it's kind of schoolwork. He was definitely excited. We established rapport right away. And he finished each intervention worksheet on average about 4 minutes. And I'll get more into what the worksheets looked like. But he was very focused despite kind of just background noise. And during the probes, he would say, "Oh man," when the time was up. I guess because he wanted to keep writing on the original probes. And then he never asked if he was done or if he was almost done. So he never seemed to be tired of doing the probes or the worksheets. He did tell me he didn't mind doing it and he thought that they were really fun. So he never seemed fatigued. So my procedure, and this is for the intervention. Of course, I did the cover, copy, compare, as I said before. There were 8 total worksheets. And what I did was I got 10 spelling words that were written by me. And what he would do is he would study the words that I wrote, the 10 words, and then he would cover the words, and then he would rewrite them from memory. And so he would study the first one, cover it, write the first one. Then he would open it and compare what he wrote to mine. And if he was right, then he would move on to the next one. And if he was wrong, he would cross out that first one that he wrote, study it again, cover it, and then rewrite the second one. And so the words that I included were the words that he commonly misspelled on his actual writing probes. from his paragraphs that he was writing. And then like if he didn't have any, like if I only had 4 that he had misspelled, I would just add commonly misspelled 4th grade words kind of like appropriately. And then, so I did this, and on the first try, like I said, he moved on. And then if he did end up misspelling them on the first try, I would add those exact words onto the second worksheet, just so I can make sure that he could master those words. And then after the 8 intervention worksheets were given, I then decided to give 3 new written expression probes again, how I did the first time. And then that way I can again determine the total words written, the correctly spelled words, and correct writing sequences, so I can compare the before probes to the after probes. So it was my before, the intervention, the after. And so this is JS right here, and he is performing his intervention. So on this side, this is his earlier worksheet. I want to say it was like the 2nd or 3rd. And here are some commonly misspelled words for him that took a while for him to master. It was frightened, received, beautiful, and February. And so right here, I know it's going to be kind of hard to see, but right here we have February. The first time he spelled it incorrectly, so he crossed it out, and then he wrote it a second time, and the second time he did it right. And so he was able to grade this himself, so it was really cool to see him. He would give himself a check mark if it was right, and then if it was wrong, he would just cross it out. And so I wrote on this one, it's beautiful, or February, cousin, beautiful, height, received, get, frightened, zebra, before, and mapping. And so this was him doing his intervention, and then this is his last worksheet. And on this worksheet, he actually mastered the word February. He mastered frightened, and he didn't master received, but he kept trying. And then he also mastered beautiful. So he was able to at least master those words. And all the other sight words and words that were commonly misspelled for 4th graders, he eventually he would catch on right away. So his spelling seemed to improve by the last intervention. Okay, so these are the results comparing the probes. So this is when I totaled the total words written. And so this is from the first probe. This is, from the first time I gave the written expression probe. And so right here on this axis we have our total words written, and right here we have the story starters. So as I mentioned before, I gave 3 story starters. So on the first story starter, he got a total of 22 words. On the second story starter, he got 30, and on the last one, he got 44. And so right here, you can see on these dotted lines, we have the 16th percentile, 50th percentile, and 84th percentile. And so as you can kind of see, it does improve as we go up. However, he still was mainly, when I averaged it, was mainly about the 16th percentile, which is this dotted line. And then after the intervention occurred, and then I gave him his written expression probes once again, he did have a significant improvement. So it's the same type of graph. On his first story starter, he scored a 43 of total words written. Then on the second one, he got a 37. And then on the last one, he got a 38. Now, as you can kind of see, I hope you can see on the video, we have an improvement. So before, when I averaged it, he was closer to the 16th percentile on average. And on this one, he's actually above the 16th percentile line. So he's closer to the 50th percentile, which was a really cool improvement to see. Now for the correctly spelled words, it's a similar situation. Again, the story starters 1, 2, and 3. He got a 21, a 27, and a 39 before the intervention. And then after, he got a 38, a 35, and a 36. So again, after the intervention occurred, he got closer to the 50th percentile. And again, before, he had closer to the 16th percentile. And this is for correctly spelled words. Now for the one that I was more interested in was the correct writing sequence. And so before he had a 19, a 27, and a 35. And after he had a 40, a 34, and a 36. So again, before he was at the 16th percentile on average, and then got closer to the 50th percentile. So then he began starting to perform closer to his same grade peers, which was really cool to see after the interventions. And this was only done after 2 days of intervention, so over a week's time I feel like it would be better. So this is a picture of the norms that I was talking about. So in red we have 4th grade, and this is for total words written, correctly spelled words, and correct writing sequences. So we have the average is a 41, because we're in the fall, so a 41 for total words written. And so this is his before and this is his after. So he is closer to the norm, being a 39.33, where he was previously a 32. And then for correctly spelled words, the average is a 38. And before, he had a 29. And after, he had a 36.33. So the 36 obviously is closer to the 38 now. Now for correct writing sequence, the average was a 38 also. And he before had a 27, and after had a 36.67. So overall, you can see that his averages after the intervention, the spelling intervention occurred, then he got closer to the averages, as I said. And this norm was, again, how I said, was from Intervention Central, where I got all of my information. So really quickly, the overall goal for the intervention was to increase his correct writing sequence from the 16th percentile to get closer to the 50th. And of course, I didn't know how that would occur since this was only going to be a 2-day intervention. And I used the cover, copy, compare method. And it worked for spelling specifically. And he was given these worksheets at his kitchen table, allowed to study the word as long as he wished before writing it. And then he was allowed to finish the worksheet at his own pace and then grade it himself. And then I quickly looked over what he wrote, and then I would rewrite the words that he had gotten wrong onto the next worksheet, and we repeated the same procedure. And then once he was done on the last day, like I said, he was given the 3 writing probes. So in summary, our goal was achieved by the data that I showed you. He improved his score and is now closer to the 50th percentile in writing fluency. And his strength seemed to be the total words written. And that's with before and after the intervention. His total words written was always a strength. However, his correct writing sequence did improve before, where it was a weakness, and now it is not. It's his second strength. And then an area of growth is still the correctly spelled words, but it is still closer to average than what it was before. And so overall, I do feel, or in conclusion, I do feel that he could still benefit from this intervention just to increase his overall scores. That way they can be closer to the average range, and I feel like if you are able to implement the interventions longer, I feel like it could definitely improve maybe even more from the 50th percentile. But some quick recommendations. I would suggest to the teacher to continue the cover, copy, compare method, either daily or at least throughout the week. And I mean, he also stated that he actually enjoyed it and was determined to learn to spell the words that were difficult for him. And he himself told me that. I told him, how was it? And he mentioned that he actually really enjoys it, and he really likes to try to kind of get a handle on those words that are hard for him. And then for parents, I would recommend to keep, and this is just like to help his writing fluency overall, but to keep a writing journal just for fun, that he can write his daily short stories, and it would just help him, once again, improve his writing fluency and hopefully boost his creativity too, because he definitely was very creative in his writing probes. And so that was really cool, and it could help encourage that. And then his parents can check the journal and help him with any writing mistakes if they see any. And it really helps him when he grades it himself. And so for the student, I would definitely tell him to continue his self-corrections in his writings, because I feel like whenever he would cross it out and rewrite it, he would be like, oh yeah, I forgot the I. Oh, I forgot this. Or I turned this around. So he was noticing his mistakes. So I would definitely suggest to him to continue to correct his words and his mistakes, and it also helps improve his memory to master the words that are incorrect. So I just say practice makes perfect. And I believe that's the last slide. So thank you.